Good evening, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. So I think that we're talking about The Young Woman in the Sea, which is a movie about Trudy Ederle, which is how you pronounce her name. In the movie, they pronounce it fairly regularly as Everly, and I was like, oh, like the Everly brothers. And no, when they show her name, it's Ederly, so I guess whatever. It is what it is. This feels like a built-for-shooting movie. And I think that's one of those things where it's like, I watched Naiad on Netflix, and I was like, oh, this is really good. I wish that they had shown this in the theater by me so I could go see it. And granted, by me is kind of a loose subjective term, because I could have gone to see it in... Oh, by the way, the Rangers are playing currently, which is why if you hear my phone buzz while I'm recording and me get audibly annoyed, well, there you go. The point I'm trying to make is, I think that, like, this is a movie that is so cliched, so, like a screenwriting 101 script for, like, here's how you do a sports movie, because there's so much room for improvement here that I'm just like, in this current form, this would be a perfect Disney Plus movie. Because that's what this is. At the end of the day, this is a Disney movie. And the only reason I went to see this was because Disney has had a reasonably good track record when it comes to their sports movies in the past. Because I seem to recall really liking The Rookie when I was a kid, because that came out in like 2003, and I remember watching that on DVD as a kid and being like, oh, that's not bad. Miracle remains, like, it's not in the top 10 we did last year, but it's still one of my favorite movies. Miracle, the story of the Miracle on Ice at the Olympics, like, and I'm a sucker for a good sports movie, like, regardless of what it is, because at the end of the day, what it is a fundamental triumph of human ability over what could be insurmountable odds, and it's a recipe for success. And Naiad last year, I was like, Naiad's really good. Granted, Naiad's more of a personal drama, and you get more of the, like, there's a difference between a biopic that's about the person and a biopic that's about the events, and the person happens to be a character. Napoleon, for example, last year, Ridley Scott's Napoleon, Joaquin Phoenix, that is a biopic of Napoleon, but it's more a story of, like, loosely what happened, and Napoleon happens to be at the center of it. That's kind of how I feel about this, where I'm like, this woman becoming the first woman to swim the English Channel, and as they say in the little postscript, forever changing the face of women's sports, it's like, well, what do you want me to do? It's just a fucking red light. Like, but the idea that, like, okay, so this woman is gonna do, like she's gonna do all that, we never really get a sense of her motivation or her drive that puts her in this position where she wants to do this. We never get a sense of, like, it seems like the way the movie portrays it, it's just kind of to be like, I don't want to just be married off and have that. But at the same time, she has this drive to really promote real change by being the first woman to do this. Like, she's aware of the impact of what she's trying to do. But at the same time, it's like, is that why she's doing it? It's a little muddied. But then again, it's like, there are moments that really work. And I think that, like, the score is great. I think the score works very well to help push the emotional, core of the movie. Which, alright, we've seen millions of sports movies. We know how to do that at this point. But at the end of the day, that's my biggest problem with this, is that it's like, it feels very cut and dry. It feels very much like you've seen this kind of thing before, and that's kind of what this entire, like, okay, we're just going to continue to You know, we're going to slap a new coat of paint on it. That new coat of paint is a story of this person in this same general sense of what this is. Like this same, you know, this same narrative beats that we followed every time. And it's like, at a certain point, I'm like, well, we still got a ton of time left, because here she is in the English, like, obviously she's not going to finish this English Channel swim this first time, because we still have a lot of time left in the movie. She has not entered the third act yet, and you know, we knew something was coming. And she was going to have to go back and swim in a second time. It is screenwriting 101 in a lot of ways, this movie. But that does not make for a good theatrical experience. And I think the other thing is, too, this movie doesn't really, you know, look, you know, all that special to where I'm like, this is something that needs to be seen on a screen. This is, and there's a lot of dead moments, especially early on in the movie, where I'm kind of like, I don't know, like, because at the same time, it's like, I care about the family drama, but at the same time, I don't. At the same time, I'm like, I just, you know, show me her swimming. Show me her, you know, doing these things. Instead of montaging her at the Olympics. I feel like that's a mistake. Montaging her winning all of these awards early on. That's a mistake. We spend a lot of time, and then by the time we get to the end, it's like, yeah, like, her dad supported her at the very end, and he had this emotional turnaround, and that's great. But for, like, 2/3 of the movie, he was a colossal dick. So, like, it's one of those things where it's like, why was this, like, there's a few baffling twists like that, where it's like, alright, well, he came around now, so we're just gonna kind of be okay with all of this, but whatever. I enjoyed the movie enough to say that, like, if you wait until it comes out on streaming, that's a worthwhile way to watch it. I think you are definitely you're definitely in a situation where you can be a, what's it called? You can be like, it's worth the time to watch if you have Disney Plus and it's coming out on Disney Plus in a few weeks. Like, these movies and, like, the Disney Nature series are, like, fantastic examples of what to do with Disney Plus. And which, on the one hand, feels backhanded, but on the other hand, it's like, yeah, like, this is a really interesting, like, the story is interesting enough, but again, it's a biopic that doesn't dive too deeply into the subject matter, and at the same time dives too deeply in other places. I'm like, I don't care about this. Like, you know, like, she just kind of decides to swim the English Channel, and it's like, yeah, but, like, what? There's not a ton of development to her character. I feel like that's kind of the thing that's sunk a lot of roles that Daisy Ridley has been in. I'm sorry, because this is also something that kind of plagued her through the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, where it's like, she's kind of a passive member of her own thing. And I would say even into, like, I haven't seen Chaos Walking, but, like, The Marsh King's Daughter, like, she's good in that, and that movie was not bad, but to have her be this, you know, oh, well, I, you know, like, what am I looking for here? Like, fuck, I forgot where I was going with that. Like, like, my father is, you know, my father was this guy, and he's coming back to kill me. She's kind of a passive member in that story, too. The only movie where it kind of works that she's a passive member of the story is, Sometimes I Think About Dying, where the fact that she is a passive member of her own life kind of plays into that. And I don't think she's passive here, because she does have drive to do things, and, like, she does challenge the authority to be like, look, I will swim the English channel. Don't get me wrong, she's not passive. It just, a lot of her motivations aren't quite fleshed out, and that's a shame. This feels like a favor movie that was done as a, okay, we're also going, like, this is like a, okay, so we're going to come back, we're going to have you do a new Star Wars movie, but we also want you to do this thing with our, you know, with Bruckheimer to, you know, to to kind of get us a little bit more attention, and you know, we'll usually lend credibility to it, because that's the thing too. This does not have a huge cast of people that I have seen before, and I'm like, I think up until you get to NBC, when she's in the middle of the second run, and the mom and the son, her brother, go into go into NBC. They're like, look, you're not giving us updates fast enough. We need to know faster. Can we just sit here and the guy's there, and it's Ion Gruffield. And I don't think Ion Gruffield's a huge name. I just know him as Mr. Fantastic from the 2005-2008 Fantastic Four movies. But like, oh, that's the other person in this movie who like I have seen before, and that's something. But yeah, this is a 3. This movie is a 3. It has enough shortcomings. I mean, I don't think this could have ever been a 5. Like, I think Naiad would have been a 5. Had I saw Naiad in the theater, Naiad would have been a 5. But this would have been this could have hit 4 if the story was a little bit more cohesive. And they doubled down on the significance of this achievement in a way that doesn't feel superficial. Like, I think that's kind of the biggest the biggest issue I have with this movie, is that it does a lot of the hallmarks, like, you're a woman, you can't do this. But that all feels very surface level. It feels very much like, oh, you're a woman, you can't do this. And it's like, yeah, but that's just, like, okay, like, can we get, like, it never goes deeper or more institutional than that. It just kind of feels like it's a product of the setting and not a key component of why what she's doing is so important. Because it's not just that she's the first woman to do it. It's not just that she, and the fact that she does it faster by a substantial margin is something that is exposited in the postscript, where it's like, oh, and she did it 2 hours faster than everyone else. And it's like, yeah, you could have worked that in. Like, and it's not a difficult thing to do, to work that into the script and work that into the thing, where it's like, oh, she's not only doing it, but she's doing it better than anyone else had. Like, even her getting the world record at one point, pretty early on in the movie, she wins a world record. And, like, she, in I think it was like the 200 meter, like, she set the world record. And it's kind of glossed over. And not glossed over, but kind of just like, yeah, it's dismissed, and it feels weird that you're using that as the vehicle to show her father's dismissiveness towards her. Because it's like, you could have used it, like, if you're going to montage through all the stuff that she's doing and all of her accomplishments, like, the least you could do, like, that's a good place to do that. Oh, she wins this race, she gets a trophy, the father is dismissive. Oh, she wins this race, she gets a trophy, her father is dismissive. Oh, she beats this person, her father's dismissive, as she gets a trophy. Like, that's a good way to do that. Not to take the achievement that, like, this is the thing that sets her on path for the Paris Olympics. Like, that would have been a better way to handle it. Now, I don't know, like, I'm not saying it didn't happen. There's no reference in the credits to, like, oh, and this guy ended up doing prison time for trying to poison her in the English Channel. Like, at no point is that reference in the credits, so it's like, alright, that feels like something that was tacked on, and I don't know if she actually did try to do it twice, or if she just did it once and was successful her first time. But I think there's a simple restructuring of the movie that could alleviate a lot of the issues, considering, again, with a biopic, you're not doing a straight adaptation of fact. It's not a documentary. It is, you are inherently changing things when you're bringing in actors and actresses and writers to create the narrative. I think you could do it where the Olympics are the low point, and then she gets the resolve to swim the English Channel, and then that's the thing that's there. I don't think you need to have the first swim in there. I think you could just do the Olympics if you expand that section out, because, like, the fact that she is one of the first female Olympic athletes from the United States in swimming is completely omitted. Like, there are structural ways to fix this movie that would have made it better, which is kind of why I have it at a 3. But we'll wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be talking about The Dead Don't Hurt, which is a new Western that apparently is pretty good. I've seen mostly positive thoughts on it, but we'll see tomorrow. I think tomorrow morning we'll be talking about Idea Man, which I believe came out on Disney+, which is the documentary about Jim Henson. I'm very interested in, because like it's one of those things that I'm like, the Muppets are great. Why don't we get more Muppet stuff? I saw someone say we should get, instead of live action remakes of Disney movies, we should get remakes with the Muppets, and I'm like, sold. Give me a Muppet remake of any movie. And I thought the example was like, do Beauty and the Beast with everyone Muppets except for the Beast, who's like Chris Hemsworth. And then when true love unlocks his human form, quote unquote, he turns into a Muppet. Like, that is absolutely genius. But we'll wrap up that for today. Also this weekend we have My Adventures with Superman and Doctor Who. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.